barely get into heaven.
Hi, everybody.
That's
My
a
name's
big
Leanne,
thing.
and I have my Jesus testimony of my life and how Jesus saved me.
Nobody thought he was going to make it.
He saved me from
But
addiction.
when
He
said,
saved me from
"God,
homelessness
when I got saved, I realized
and
I didn't know God
rejection.
at all." He said, "I was one of those who professed
I was
knowledge,
born in Georgia.
went to a great church,
My mom and
but I
father
realized
lived
that
in
one
Fort
day
Stewart, Georgia, because
I
my dad
stood
was in the
before
Army
God.
there.
He basically
I
told me,
was born
"I
into
don't
a
know
family of addiction on both sides, my mother and father's side. A lot of alcoholics, and drug
there is a
addiction.
price to pay."
My dad
To
was
know
not
him means
to
that
speak
we
badly of
lay
him,
our
but
lives
he
down
was
for
an
him.
alcoholic
And
the whole
that
time
is
that
the
I
thing,
lived with him
because
until
Jesus
about
said,
12
"He
years.
has my
Lived with
commandments
my mom and my
and keeps
dad
them," is the one
till
who
I was
really loves
12.
and one who really loves
And then
you.
my mom had divorced my dad when I was 12, and we moved down to Florida.
How does he do that? Through the Spirit of
And
Christ who is in us.
I was an isolated
And
kid.
so
I got picked on in grade
it's
school.
free, it's a gift, we never could have earned it. However, in order to engage,
My mom
in
remarried at my age
relationship,
of 14.
there is
And I
no
had
room
a new stepfather, and he was very good to me. He taught me obedience. He taught me responsibility.
Now we have the ability to be able to
He had
enter
me,
into a very close
he
relationship.
trained me how to drive. He got my driver's license with me and showed me how to drive a car. He told me to get a job when I was 14, so I worked at Chick-fil-A. I had my first job. And I wasn't really popular in high school. In 10th grade, I was vice president. I had only very few friends. I didn't trust a lot of people, so I only had like maybe 3 or 4 close girlfriends. And in 10th grade, I had my first boyfriend.
What are some of the key ways where you can actually walk into this? Because one of the other things
I played soccer, softball, and I swam, and I was on the golf team for a little bit, but mostly I was a softball player from when I was from 7 years old all the way till 17. And I had my first boyfriend. He was a surfer at age 14.
Decades ago, I found myself in a situation where
So lust and perversion were there. And actually, I wanted to back up. When I was 13 years old, I was a virgin, and I had sex with a man, and I think that let the evil spirits in. And I also played with the Ouija board when I was 14 years old, and I think that let in evil spirits. I started doing drugs at age 16, alcohol, pills, Xanax, Valiums, marijuana. I would go to school, I would work, and I would go to parties on the weekends with all our friends in high school. And I got addicted then. Then I went away to college. I went to Tallahassee Community College, where I had met another guy who was dealing drugs, and I got involved with ecstasy. Got addicted to that. I was working up there waiting tables. And I think that all of us have a certain oil, a certain entrustment. For the most part, like I hated going to family get-togethers because I was always ignored and talked about, but my family would talk about me, and I would always isolate myself and go in the other room. When family was out in the kitchen at the table sitting, I would go in the other room and be by myself. So I isolated a lot because I didn't believe my family loved me. I have a lot of rejection issues. I would take offense a lot to a lot of things. And still to this day, I isolate a lot and I take offense. I always think somebody doesn't like me or somebody's talking about me. And that's just how I am. I don't mean to. I just do. I think I do have a spirit of fear on me, a spirit of anxiety. I've grown up with anxiety and fear most of my life because my dad used to beat my mom in front of me, and he used to put me down all the time verbally. And no disrespect to my father, he has passed away from Parkinson's in 2019. God bless him. And we weren't close. He lived in Ohio, and me, my mom, and my sister lived in Florida. And we didn't talk to my father until about 25 years later. So I left Tallahassee because I was really involved with the drugs there, and I quit school. I was just showing up late, calling in sick to college. So I left there, tried to get away from the drugs. Then when I came back to Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where I was living, I got involved with my best friend, and me and her were waiting tables at this place called Roadhouse Grill. And we got involved with pain pills. And then eventually the pain pills, the Oxycontin, I was eating about 15 to 20 a day, snorting them. And then that became too expensive. So I switched to heroin. It was, I was snorting it. Sorry, this is hard for me. It was cheaper than the Oxycontins because the Oxycontins were about $20 a pill, and I could go down to Miami and get a 10 bag of heroin, which I was doing probably about 4 or 5 a day. So my habit went from like $200 to like a $50 a day habit because the heroin was cheaper. And then I had met a guy who was also addicted to Oxycontin and heroin. And I started doing it with him. And then I moved into his house from my mother's house. And he was a little abusive. He hit me. The cops were called. And he was growing weed in his apartment. And one night the cops got called, and he got taken to the police station because the neighbor had called the cops on him. And his friend came over a couple hours later, and we got all the plants, the weed plants out of his apartment, and we got rid of them because we were afraid the cops were going to come back because they wanted to go in that room, but I didn't let them in that room. It was locked, so I didn't have a key to it. Only his other friend did. So I was partying with him, going through abuse here and there with him, and eventually I moved back to my mom's, and during my life I was back and forth to my mom's, and me and him were on and off for about a good 5 years. But a lot of my life since high school was going to the clubs, working, waiting tables, hostessing, and just partying a lot. And because I deal with anxiety and fear from when I was growing up, in order for me to be around people, I would pop a lot of pills, a lot of anxiety, Xanax and Valium, so I could be around people because it would loosen me up and I was able to talk in front of people and stuff. To this day, I don't do those pills anymore. It's my anxiety's still a little bad, but for the most part, the Lord has taken that anxiety and taken that fear away. The Lord has healed me of drugs. And I got saved about 2 years ago. My mom sent me a message and I played it on YouTube, and that actually invited me into Christ, and I was baptized in 2024 and saved in 2024. But going back to my past, I was with the ex-boyfriend who me and him were doing the drugs and the heroin. We were sniffing heroin. He was shooting up. He was also doing crack, which I didn't like how he was acting. We got our own apartment together. He was out for like days at a time, smoking crack, doing heroin. me and him would go back and forth from Fort Lauderdale, where we lived, to Miami to get drugs. He got into a fight down there in Miami with about maybe 6 drug dealers, and he was really crazy in the head when he was doing these drugs. So there was guns involved and everything. It was really bad. Eventually, I did break up with him because he was staying out for so many days in a row, and I didn't really like the crack. I mean, but I was no better. I was selling my methadone pills that I was doctor shopping with. I was selling my pain pills and Xanax and Adderall because I was going to crooked doctors down there in Florida. But yeah, we broke up again, and I moved to my mom's in Texas. She was living in Waco, Texas. I went there. I got clean from methadone. I went off of it cold turkey. It was really hard to get off of it cold turkey, so it led me. I was having like a lot of anxiety and stuff, and not sleeping. So I went back to the pain pills. I went back to the Xanax and the Adderall, and I was seeing another doctor in Texas, not in Florida, but Texas. And they were prescribing me Adderall, pain pills, Xanax, Valium, muscle relaxers, Somas, anything I could get my hands on. Doctor shopping. The doctors were just giving it to me. I tried to go away to college. I tried to take a surgical tech program in Texas, but I ended up calling in sick because of the drugs, and me being sick from the methadone that I was detoxing from, and just a lot of anxiety and stuff caused me to miss school. And then I was also waiting tables in Texas, had my own apartment, couldn't pay the rent because I was waiting tables, wasn't making that much money. So I left that apartment, went back to my mom's in Waco. That was Fort Worth, Texas, where I was at, where I had the apartment and going to school for the surgical tech, but that didn't work out. So I'm back at my mom's in Waco, Texas. She was remarried for her second time. The last one is I ended up on my mom, not my mom's, but her husband's computer. I found child pornography on it, and it scarred me a little bit. I did not like it. I told my mom right away what I had found on his computer. They ended up getting divorced. So we left Waco, me and my mom, and we went back to Florida, but we went to Naples, Florida, not Fort Lauderdale. And I lived there with her. I got a job at the hospital working, and I started to get involved with horses. My mom had horses, and she bought me a horse. And I never rode him. I just trained him in this thing called the round pen, and he was a show horse. And it was really nice for a while. It didn't last that long. So I got a job at the hospital as administrative assistant. I went back to the doctor I was seeing in Florida, getting my Adderall, getting my pain pills, muscle relaxers, getting Xanax, getting Valium, getting Roxy's, which are the pain pills. And I was popping just mixture of pills at a time, maybe like 5 Adderall a day, a few Xanax a day, some pain pills, muscle relaxers, mixing it up, going to work high as administrative assistant in the hospital. And I mean, I'm sure the people can tell because I was very high all the time. And I started calling in sick, lost that job. And then I decided I wanted to go to Ohio after about probably 20 years after not seeing my father. So I started to drive up to Ohio, and I decided I wanted to kill myself. I don't know why. I was depressed about something. I think being high all the time got me depressed. So I parked my car. I parked my car at a rest stop, and I took a bunch of pills, and I left a suicide note. And then the next day I had awakened somebody knocking on my car window, and it was my sister and her her boyfriend, which is now her husband. And I guess his father was a police officer, and they somehow traced my phone to where I was at, and they found me sleeping almost dead with pills all over the dashboard and a suicide note. So from there, my sister called my mom and my mom's new boyfriend, which she's now married to, and she told them that they found me. So I rode with my sister, and my sister's boyfriend rode my car up, and I ended up going to rehab. They put me in the rehab. Oh, and I also forgot to tell you, back when I started using the heroin, after about 4 years of using it, when I was 24 years old, I also went to rehab back then too. It really didn't do anything for me. And this rehab that I went to now, I was probably about 32 years old. This is the second rehab, and it was a really good rehab. It was in Delray Beach, and I was there for like 6 months. I got out because I had run away to the store, so they kicked me out, and I went to a halfway house, a Christian halfway house, and there I got introduced to the Lord, and I got baptized. Then I got out of there. I left there after a year, and I was still just dabbling through drugs and stuff. Eventually, I met a guy who ran sober houses in Florida. Well, actually, let me back up. I ended up getting a DUI in Florida, and they took away my car, so I didn't have a car. I went to jail for a couple weeks, I think about 2 or 3 weeks, got out, and the guy who owned the sober house came to get me. I don't remember how I found him, but I was living there at the sober house with him, and I ended up falling in love with him and dating him. And then I ended up using after being there for 2 months. And so he kicked me out, and we broke up, and I went to my friend's house and lived there. Used drugs there, got into a fight with him there, ended up leaving and going to another shelter. So I was homeless from 2009 to 2019. So after that, I moved to Ohio because my mom had come up here with my sister. And I went into a shelter over here in 2019. So I was homeless after going to shelters in the past in Florida, living on people's couches in Florida, living on the streets, sleeping at bus stops back then. I'm backing up to between 2009 to all the way 2019. And then 2019, I went on methadone at the methadone clinic, and I was still using other drugs, Xanax and Valium, Klonopin. And then in 2023, I got sober. I stopped popping the pills. Once in a while, I would have a relapse here and there. And recently, I just had a relapse about 2 months ago. And in 2024, I got introduced to Jesus Christ again after backsliding for so many years. He saved me from drugs. He gave me this apartment. I got an apartment from the shelter, and I believe that Jesus got this apartment for me. And now I'm with him. I'm learning through the Holy Spirit. I read my Bible every day. I've tried to introduce people that live in my building to Jesus. And I'm trying to start my own ministry where I want to help domestic violence victims and sex and human trafficking victims and homeless people. And the ministry is going to be run on grants. I'm still in the process of getting it through the Secretary of State, my LLC. And I want to just get a car and help people, help homeless people, and disciple them if I can, and try to disciple people in my building. Right now, I've baptized a few people in my building, and I'm trying to read the Bible with them and spread the good news of Jesus Christ. He has saved me from a lot, and he's given me a lot of breaks. He's chances after chance. I've had a problem with being rebellious, disobedient, arguing with him, with the Lord, because I've had issues where the enemy has attacked my mind. So I got upset with the Lord because he wasn't healing this area. And I shouldn't have gotten upset. He has given me mercy and grace. And I will never, ever again have an attitude with the Lord, because you got to be obedient. You have to do what he says. And if not, you suffer the consequences. And that's what I've learned. And but I love the Lord. He has saved me from a lot. And he's given me mercy and grace more times than I can count. And that's my testimony. Thank you. I hope you like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'm just starting to build this channel, so I would appreciate it if you subscribe to it. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Amen.
You don't make excuses for morality. You don't make excuses for impurity. You don't make excuses for greed. No. Unforgiveness. All of these things. He says, don't be fooled. Don't be foolish. These are things that will actually keep you from inheriting the kingdom of God and of Christ. So we don't want to be messing around